The boardroom went silent as Vanessa watched her fiancé, CEO of Meridian Industries, fall to his knees, begging the man in the shadows at the head of the table. "Please, Mr. Zhao, don't do this. I'll do anything." And that's when the figure stepped into the light. It was Daniel, her ex-husband, the broke nobody she'd divorced 6 months ago. Except he wasn't broke. He never was. But I'm getting ahead of myself, because 8 months earlier, Vanessa thought she had it all figured out. 8 months before that boardroom, Vanessa sat across from Daniel in their cramped studio apartment, staring at the eviction notice on the table between them. 28 days. That's all they had left. "We'll figure it out," Daniel said quietly, reaching for her hand. His shirt was wrinkled, the same one he'd worn to 3 job interviews that week, all rejections. Vanessa pulled her hand away. "Will we? Because I've been figuring it out for 3 years, Daniel. I'm tired." She didn't say what she was really thinking, that she was tired of shopping at thrift stores while her college friends posted vacation photos from Santorini, tired of declining dinner invitations because they couldn't afford a $20 entree, tired of being married to a man who dropped out of his master's program to chase some startup dream that never materialized, tired of being poor. "Daniel, listen," Vanessa and Medea started to claim, but she was already standing. "I got promoted. Richard told me today, senior marketing director, $80,000 a year." For the first time in weeks, Daniel smiled, a real smile. "That's incredible. Baby, I'm leaving you." The smile died. Vanessa grabbed her purse, hands shaking but voice steady. "I've already signed the papers. Your copy is in the kitchen drawer. It's not working anymore." "Not working?" Daniel stood slowly, like he'd been punched. "Vanessa, we're struggling right now, but we've been struggling for 3 years. I can't do this anymore. I can't watch you fail over and over while I'm the only one keeping us afloat. Richard, he sees potential in me, real potential." Something shifted in Daniel's expression, something Vanessa couldn't quite read. "Richard? Your boss, Richard?" "He believes in me," she said, lifting her chin. "He's taking me to the executive summit next month. He said I have what it takes to go all the way to the top." "I'm sure he did." Daniel's voice was hollow now. "So that's it? 3 years of marriage for a promotion and, what, a shot with your rich boss?" Her face flushed. "Don't make this about him. Isn't it, though?" She didn't answer. She just walked out, leaving Daniel alone in the apartment they could no longer afford, next to the eviction notice that would never matter again. What Vanessa didn't see was Daniel pulling out his phone the moment the door closed, or the call he made, or the way his voice changed completely when someone answered. "It's done. She's gone. Continue as planned." 6 months later, Vanessa stood in Richard's penthouse, champagne in hand, staring out at the city glittering below. This was what winning looked like. "You're glowing," Richard whispered, sliding his arm around her waist. "Power suits you." She leaned into him. Richard was everything Daniel wasn't: confident, established, connected. CEO of Meridian Industries, the fastest growing tech firm in the city. At 42, he built an empire, and now he wanted to share it with her. Vanessa's phone buzzed, a text from her lawyer. Divorce finalized. You're officially free. She deleted it without responding. Daniel was the past. This, Richard, the penthouse, the power. This was her future. What Vanessa didn't know was that across town, Daniel was sitting in a car outside that very building, watching the lit windows of Richard's penthouse. His phone rang. "Status?" a woman's voice asked. "She's exactly where we need her," Daniel replied. "Has Richard signed the preliminary contracts yet?" "This morning." He's so desperate for the Zhao partnership, he didn't read the fine print. Daniel's expression didn't change. "Good. Let's proceed to phase 2. If you can't stand people who abandon their partners the moment things get hard, let me know in the comments. Type "loyalty matters," because what Vanessa was about to discover would make her question everything. The executive summit was everything Vanessa had dreamed of. Crystal chandeliers, champagne that cost more than her old monthly rent, and power players who actually knew her name now. Vanessa, darling, Richard's business partner, Gerald, kissed both her cheeks. "Richard tells me you're the mastermind behind the Zhao pitch presentation." She smiled modestly. "I just organized his vision." "Don't sell yourself short," Gerald said, lowering his voice. "Between you and me, Richard needs this partnership. Meridian's been hemorrhaging money for 6 months. If Zhao doesn't come through—" He made a throat-cutting gesture. Vanessa's smile faltered. "What do you mean, hemorrhaging money?" "Oh, Richard didn't tell you?" Gerald looked genuinely surprised. "We're $30 million in debt. The board's threatening to replace him if he doesn't secure major funding by quarter's end. Zhao Corporation is literally our last shot." Before Vanessa could respond, the lights dimmed. A woman in a sharp suit took the stage. "Ladies and gentlemen, it's my honor to introduce the representative from Zhao Corporation, the company that's revolutionizing global tech infrastructure. With a valuation of $900 million and growing, they're the most sought-after partner in the industry." Vanessa's heart pounded. This was it. This was the moment that would change everything. "Please welcome Mr. Daniel Hayes, Chief Operating Officer of Zhao Corporation." The world tilted. Daniel walked onto the stage in a suit that probably cost more than their old car. His hair was different, professionally styled. He moved with a confidence Vanessa had never seen before. This wasn't the man who'd sat across from her in their cramped apartment. This was someone else entirely. Their eyes met across the ballroom. He smiled, not warmly, not coldly, just smiled. Richard grabbed Vanessa's arm, his fingers digging in. "You know him?" "I—" Vanessa couldn't form words. That's Daniel, my ex-husband." "Your ex-husband is the COO of Zhao Corporation? The man you left because he was broke and unemployed is—" He couldn't finish the sentence. Daniel began speaking, his voice carrying effortlessly across the room. "Good evening. I'm here to discuss potential partnerships with qualifying companies. Zhao Corporation is committed to innovation, integrity, and loyalty. Values we hold sacred. The word loyalty seemed to echo directly to Vanessa. Over the next week, we'll be conducting final assessments. Only one company will be selected. Choose wisely how you present yourselves, because we see everything. As Daniel left the stage, he walked past their table. For one brief moment, he paused. "Vanessa," he said quietly, "you look well." Then he was gone, leaving her trembling in her designer dress, wondering if the floor might swallow her whole. Back at Richard's penthouse, Vanessa paced while Richard downed his third scotch. "Did you know?" he demanded. "Did you know who he was?" "Of course not." Vanessa's hand shook. "He worked retail, Richard. He failed at every business he tried. He was nobody." "Well, he's somebody now. He's the person who controls whether Meridian survives." Richard slammed his glass down. "Do you have any idea what this means? If he's vindictive, if he holds a grudge—" "He's not like that," Vanessa said, though she wasn't sure anymore. "Daniel's not. He wouldn't—" "Wouldn't what? Destroy the company that hired his ex-wife? The CEO she left him for?" Richard laughed bitterly. "I would." Vanessa's phone buzzed. An email from an unknown sender. "To Vanessa, from D. Hayes at zhaocorp.com. Subject: catch up. Vanessa, it's been too long. I'd love to discuss the old days over coffee. Tomorrow, 10 a.m., Hartley Cafe. You remember it, right? Where we had our first date. There's so much you don't know, so much I'd like to share. From Daniel." "He wants to meet," Vanessa whispered. Richard snatched the phone from her hands, reading the email. "You're going." "What?" "You're going, and you're going to find out what he wants. Apologize, grovel, do whatever it takes to make sure he doesn't sabotage our pitch." Richard's eyes were desperate now. "Vanessa, if we don't get this partnership, I'd lose everything. The company, the penthouse, all of it. Do you understand?" Vanessa understood perfectly. She'd left one sinking ship for another, and the man she'd abandoned held the only life raft. The next morning, Vanessa sat in Hartley Cafe, the same corner booth where Daniel had nervously asked her to be his girlfriend 7 years ago. She'd worn her armor, designer suit, perfect makeup, but her hands wouldn't stop shaking. Daniel arrived exactly on time, carrying 2 cups. He set one in front of her. "Caramel macchiato, extra foam. Still your favorite?" She stared at the cup. "You remember." "I remember everything, Vanessa." He sat down across from her, and for a moment she saw a flash of the man she'd married. Then it was gone, replaced by this polished stranger. "Daniel, Let me start," he interrupted gently. "I owe you an explanation." "You owe me nothing. I'm the one who left me when you thought I was worthless." "Yes, you did." Vanessa flinched. Daniel took a sip of his coffee. 3 years ago, I started Zhao Corporation in my friend's garage. You remember Kevin from grad school? Turns out he had serious venture capital connections. We built something revolutionary, AI infrastructure that makes current systems look like calculator watches. But you were unemployed. You failed every interview. No, Vanessa. I turned down every job offer because I was building something bigger. I couldn't tell you because I wanted you to love me when I had nothing. Not for what I could become, just for me. The truth settled over her like ice water. So you lied, she whispered. I omitted there's a difference. I never told you I was broke. You assumed because I wasn't working a traditional job, because I dressed simply, because I didn't flaunt money. He leaned forward. I wanted a partner who saw me, Vanessa, not my bank account. And I failed that test. It wasn't a question. Spectacularly. If you believe real love survives struggle, hit that subscribe button. People who only love success won't. And you need to hear what Daniel revealed next. Vanessa's voice was barely audible. Why did you let me leave? Why didn't you stop me? Daniel's expression softened for the first time. He said, because I loved you enough to let you choose, and you chose Richard. I didn't know I had money? That's exactly the point. He pulled out his phone, scrolling to something. Do you want to know the worst part? The day you left, I was planning to tell you everything. I was going to propose again, properly this time, with the ring you deserved. He showed her a photo, a stunning diamond ring in a Tiffany's box. I had an entire evening planned, dinner at Astoria, the restaurant you always wanted to try, a helicopter ride over the city, the truth about Zhao Corporation, all of it. He put the phone away. And then you walked in and told me you were leaving me for your boss. Vanessa felt tears burning behind her eyes. Daniel, the apartment we were living in, I owned the building. The eviction notice on the table that day, I planted it. I wanted to see if you'd stand by me when you thought we'd lost everything. His voice cracked. You walked out before the ink dried. Oh, God. Vanessa covered her mouth. So yes, Vanessa, I know exactly who Richard is. I know Meridian Industries is drowning in debt. I know he's using you to try to secure a partnership that might save his company. Daniel's eyes were cold now. And I know he'll throw you away the second you're no longer useful, just like you did to me. That's not fair. Fair? Daniel laughed, but there was no humor in it. You want to talk about fair? How about this? Zhao Corporation owns 60% of Meridian's outstanding debt. We bought it 3 months ago, which means I essentially own Richard's company. And by extension, you own my career, Vanessa finished weakly. Now you're understanding. Daniel stood, buttoning his jacket. The partnership meeting is in 3 days. I suggest you prepare Richard. I have some very specific terms in mind. Daniel, please, whatever you're planning. What I'm planning? He looked down at her, and for a moment, she saw the hurt beneath the armor. Vanessa, I already did it. The moment you walked out our door, you destroyed your own world. I'm just letting you watch it collapse. He left her sitting there, staring at an untouched caramel macchiato, realizing she'd never known the man she married at all. 3 days later, Vanessa stood outside the Zhao Corporation boardroom, her heart hammering against her ribs. Richard paced beside her, his face pale and slick with sweat. "Just let me do the talking," he muttered. "Don't engage with him. Don't react. We need this deal, Vanessa." The door opened. Daniel's assistant, a woman in her 50s with kind eyes, gestured them inside. The boardroom was all glass and steel, overlooking the city from 40 floors up. And at the head of the marble table sat Daniel, flanked by 2 other executives Vanessa didn't recognize. "Richard, Vanessa, please sit." Daniel's voice was perfectly professional. They sat. Vanessa felt like she was sitting in her own trial. Daniel slid a folder across the table. "These are our terms for the partnership." Richard grabbed it eagerly, flipping through pages. His face changed with every line he read. Confusion, then shock, then horror. This can't be right." Richard looked up. "These terms would give Zhao Corporation controlling interest in Meridian. You essentially owned my company." "Our company," Daniel corrected. "We already own 60% of your debt, remember? This partnership would convert that debt to equity. Think of it as a merger, a very one-sided merger." "You're taking everything," Richard whispered. "Not everything. You'd remain as a figurehead CEO, paid position, of course, comfortable salary. You just have no actual power." He leaned back in his chair. "Alternatively, we call in your debt immediately. Meridian declares bankruptcy, and you lose everything anyway. This way, you get to save face." Vanessa found her voice. "Why are you doing this?" Daniel's eyes locked onto hers. "Because I can. Because when I had nothing, Richard here offered my wife a way out. Seems only fair I've returned the favor." Richard slammed his fist on the table. "She means nothing to you now, right? So why?" "She means everything," he said quietly, and the room went silent. "That's why this hurts. That's why I'm doing this. Because the woman I would have given everything to chose a man who has nothing real to offer her, and I want her to see what she traded for." He pressed the button on the table. A screen descended from the ceiling, displaying financial documents. "These are Meridian's real books, Richard, the ones you didn't show Vanessa. The embezzlement, the shell companies, the funds you've been siphoning for your gambling debts." Daniel's voice was ice. "I've already forwarded copies to the SEC. Rich's face went pale to gray. "You're ruined either way," Daniel continued. "The question is whether you take Meridian's employees down with you or whether you sign this deal and they get absorbed into Zhao Corporation with their jobs intact." "You bastard." "No. I'm the man who actually cared about building something real instead of a house of cards." He stood. "You have 24 hours to decide. Sign the papers, or I pull the plug." Richard stood too, grabbing Vanessa's arm. "We're leaving." But Vanessa didn't move. She was staring at Daniel, seeing him clearly, perhaps for the first time. "You're not doing this for revenge," she said slowly. "You're doing this to save those people's jobs." Daniel's expression flickered, just for a second. "Believe whatever helps you sleep at night, Vanessa." "The debt purchase? The partnership terms? You're restructuring Meridian under Zhao's umbrella so the employees don't lose everything when Richard's fraud comes to light?" She stood, ignoring Richard's grip on her arm. "You're not the villain here. You never were." "Don't romanticize this," Daniel said sharply. "I'm destroying your fiancé's life. That's not heroic." "He's not my fiancé anymore," Vanessa said, yanking her arm free from Richard's grasp. She pulled off the diamond ring, Richard's ring, and set it on the conference table. I'm done being a pawn in someone else's game. Richard's voice was venomous. You ungrateful. I'm grateful, Vanessa interrupted, looking directly at him. Grateful I finally see who you really are, who I became for you, and who I threw away. Character matters. The money can't win. Now watch what happens when she finally owns her mistakes. Vanessa stood in the hallway outside the boardroom after Richard stormed out, leaving her alone with the shattered pieces of her life. The elevator doors had barely closed on Richard's rage before she turned back. Daniel was still inside, gathering his papers. He looked up when she entered, his expression carefully neutral. Forgot something? Everything, Vanessa said, her voice breaking. I forgot everything that mattered. Vanessa, don't let me finish, please. She took a shaky breath. You're right, about all of it. I chose money over love, status over substance. I looked at you and only saw what you didn't have, never what you were trying to build. Tears streamed down her face now, and she didn't wipe them away. I failed you. I failed us. And I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I need you to know that seeing you now, seeing who you became, who you always were, it's destroying me in ways I can't even explain. Daniel's jaw tightened. What do you want me to say? Nothing. I don't want anything. I laughed bitterly. I just wanted you to know that you won. Not because you're destroying Richard, but because you proved that I was wrong about everything. You were never the failure. I was. She turned to leave. Vanessa. She stopped, not looking back. Daniel's voice was softer now. The coffee shop. That day I asked you to meet me. Do you know why I really wanted to see you? Vanessa turned slowly. I wanted to see if you'd changed. If maybe the woman I fell in love with was still in there somewhere. He stepped closer, and for about 5 minutes sitting across from you, I thought maybe she was. Maybe we could start over, build something new from the ashes. Daniel? But then you started apologizing for the wrong things. Sorry for leaving, sorry for not knowing I had money. You weren't sorry for betraying the partnership we built, for giving up when things got hard, for choosing easy over right. He shook his head. The woman I married would never have done that. You're right, Vanessa whispered. She wouldn't have, and I don't know how to become her again. Then that's where you start. Daniel walked to the window, looking out at the city. I built Zal Corporation from nothing, Vanessa. You know what I learned? That failure isn't falling. It's refusing to get back up. Is there any chance? She couldn't finish. Daniel was quiet for a long moment. I don't know. Right now, I can barely look at you without remembering how easily you walked away. But he finally turned to face her. I also remember the woman who stayed up all night helping me prep for presentations, who believed in my ideas when everyone else thought I was crazy, who made poverty feel like an adventure instead of a punishment. She's still here. Daniel, she's still... Then prove it. Not to me, to yourself. He handed her a business card. Zal Corporation is absorbing Meridian's workforce next month. We'll need someone to manage the transition, someone who knows both company cultures. The job is yours if you want it. Vanessa stared at the card. You're offering me a job? After everything? I'm offering you a chance to rebuild, to show yourself who you really are when money and status aren't factors. His eyes held hers. Start over, Vanessa. Not with me, with yourself. Figure out what you really value, what kind of person you want to be. And then, maybe, we'll have coffee again, as different people than we were. Maybe we won't. Maybe we're just two people who loved each other once and have to let that be enough. I honestly don't know yet. Daniel, wait. Vanessa caught his arm. Thank you for seeing something in me I don't even see yet. I'm an investor, remember? I see potential everywhere. Question is whether you'll do the work to realize it. Then he was gone, leaving Vanessa alone in the boardroom with the business card and the crushing weight of her own choices. The Zhao Corporation's offices hummed with productive energy as Vanessa reviewed integration reports in her modest office. Nothing like Richard's penthouse, but it was hers. Earned, not given. Vanessa, her assistant poked her head in. The transition team wants your approval on the final staffing structure. Tell them I'll be there in 5. Vanessa saved her work, catching her reflection in the darkened monitor. Different haircut, simpler clothes, no expensive jewelry. She barely recognized herself anymore. That was the point. 6 months of 14-hour days. 6 months of proving she could build something instead of just climbing someone else's ladder. 6 months of sitting in the same office building as Daniel and never once asking for special treatment. He'd kept his distance, professional and cordial. Sometimes he'd see him in meetings, offering suggestions that improved her proposals, supporting her work without making it about them. It hurt and healed in equal measure. Vanessa? Another voice. This one familiar in a way that still made her heart stop. Daniel stood in her doorway, 2 cups of coffee in hand. Caramel macchiato, extra foam. I thought you might need the caffeine. I saw your light on at 6 this morning when I got in. She took the cup carefully, like it might shatter. Thank you. The merger report you submitted last week was brilliant, by the way. The board was impressed. I had a good teacher. Someone once told me failure is just data for your next attempt. She smiled softly. Daniel stepped into her office, closing the door behind him. Can we talk? Really talk? Vanessa's pulse quickened. Of course. He sat across from her, not behind a conference table, just 2 chairs and honest conversation. I've been watching you these past 6 months. That's not creepy at all. She tried to joke, but her voice shook. You're different. The way you handle your team, the way you approach problems. You're not chasing promotions or corner offices. You're building something that matters. I'm trying to be someone who matters, Vanessa corrected quietly. Someone worthy of the faith you showed me. Vanessa. Daniel ran his hand through his hair. I didn't give you that job to change you back into who you were. I gave it to you because I saw who you could become. And she held her breath. Who am I becoming? Someone remarkable. Someone I'm finding it increasingly hard to be just colleagues with. He leaned forward, but I need to know something first. Are you doing this for you or for us? It was the question she'd been asking herself for 6 months. Honestly, Vanessa set down her coffee, meeting his eyes. It started as a way to prove myself to you, but somewhere along the way, it became about proving myself to me, about liking who I see in the mirror, about building a life I'm proud of, regardless of who's in it. And if I said I wanted to be in it, not as your boss, not as your ex-husband, but as someone starting completely fresh, Vanessa's eyes filled with tears. I'd say I don't deserve that chance, but I'd take it anyway and spend every day trying to become someone who does. Daniel smiled, the genuine, unguarded smile she'd fallen in love with 7 years ago. That's the woman I've been waiting for." He reached across the space between them, and Vanessa took his hand. Not grabbing, not desperate, just holding on. "Coffee? Hartley Cafe. Tonight." "A first date," Vanessa whispered. "A first date," he agreed. No history, no expectations. Just two people seeing if they fit. And for the first time in 6 months, Vanessa felt like maybe, just maybe, she was exactly where she belonged. That evening, Vanessa sat in the same corner booth at Hartley Cafe, where this had all begun. But everything was different now. She was different. Daniel slid into the seat across from her, and the smile he gave her held no bitterness, no armor, just possibility. "So," he said, "tell me about yourself. What do you do?" Vanessa laughed, a real laugh, not the practiced one she'd perfected for Richard's events. "I work for this tech company, Zhao Corporation. Maybe you've heard of it." "Impressive. What do you like about it?" "The CEO," she said without hesitation. "He's brilliant, but he's also kind. He gave someone a second chance when they didn't deserve one. Taught them that success isn't about what you have, it's about who you become earning it." Daniel's expression softened. "He sounds like a lucky man." "No, she's the lucky one." She reached across the table, and this time, when Daniel took her hand, it felt like coming home, because he taught her that love isn't about perfection. It's about showing up, even when it's hard, even when you're rebuilding yourself from the ground up. And are you? Rebuilt? "I'm getting there," she said honestly. "Still a work in progress. Probably always will be." "Good," Daniel said. "Me too. Maybe we can be works in progress together." As they sat there, two people who'd loved and lost and found their way back to something new, Vanessa realized something profound. Daniel hadn't destroyed her world that day in the boardroom. He destroyed the illusion, the shallow, hollow version of herself she'd built on someone else's money and validation. And in doing so, he'd given her the greatest gift possible, the chance to build something real. "Daniel," she said softly. "Yeah? Thank you for not giving up on me, even when I gave up on us." He squeezed her hand. "Thank you for becoming someone worth waiting for." They ordered coffee, caramel macchiatos, extra foam, just like always, and talked until the cafe closed, about dreams, failures, second chances, and the long road ahead. And when Daniel walked Vanessa home that night, neither of them knew if they'd make it, if their story would end in forever or just a beautiful chapter that had to close. But they knew this: some things are worth the risk, some people are worth the work, and sometimes destroying everything you thought you wanted is the only way to find what you actually need. 3 years later, Daniel would propose again in that same corner booth. Vanessa would say yes through happy tears. And when people asked how they made it work, they'd always say the same thing: "We chose each other." Not once, but every day after. Because that's what real love is. Not a fairy tale ending, but 1,000 small beginnings, all leading toward forever.